Brief overview of our agenda this morning. We will have welcome and introductions, and then we will have our chair of the Mobility Advisory Council, Jeff Tom, give a presentation. Then we'll present some information and update on the paratransit services, GO services. Customer service and customer satisfaction will be giving a complaint and feedback and accommodations process update. And then we'll have our SacRT supplemental services provider, UServe, give an overview of their customer satisfaction process. And lastly, we will be opening up for question and answer session. So with that, I'd like to begin with introductions. And we're going to start with Carmen Alba.
Good morning, Carmen Alba, VP of Bus Operations, SacRT.
Richard Mitchell, Director, Community and Contracted Bus Services.
Jessica Gonzalez, Director of Marketing, Communications, and Public Information.
Blanca Salcedo, Director, Bus Operations.
Vincent Beatty, Director of Light Rail.
Jamie Polcanavery, Director of Customer Satisfaction.
Kathy Sajan, Paratransit Operations Manager.
Casey Courtwright, Director of Office Management and Budget.
Matt Meebach, Maintenance Superintendent.
Holly Martinez, Senior Customer Advocate.
Sean Reynolds, SacRT GO Program Analyst.
Adam Green, Senior Administrative Assistant.
Austin Greiner, Accessible Services Administrative Assistant.
Jeff Tom, Chair Mobility Advisory Council.
Hi, my name is Jess Mooney. I'm the Senior Director of Client Services for UServe.
Great, thank you, everyone. We do have some folks on the call. I think there's 3 people. So thank you for joining. Appreciate that. What we're going to do is we're going to launch into the SacRT Mobility Advisory Council presentation by Jeff Tom. So we'll pass that over to you, Jeff.
Okay, thank you, Priscilla.
You're welcome.
Good morning, everyone. I am Jeff Tom, Chair of the SacRT Mobility Advisory Council, known as the MAC. So what is the MAC? Mobility Advisory Council is an advisory body created by the RT Board. We are governed by bylaws that are modified every so often, usually in accordance with recommendations that the MAC will make to the board for their approval. Many of the items that I'll touch on today are set forth in our bylaws. So first, what is the mission of the Mobility Advisory Council? Our mission has several components. First, to advise on system accessibility, future features and improvements. Next, to provide a communications link between RT key stakeholder groups whose interests are representing seniors and persons with disabilities. Thirdly, to represent public transportation interests areas for persons with disabilities and seniors. So what is our composition? The MAC can have not more than 17 members, 9 of whom can be from organizations of persons with disabilities and seniors, and 8 of whom, not more than 4 each, from who are seniors or people with disabilities. So the MAC elects our own chair and vice chair. And if the chair is a person with a disability, then the vice chair must be a senior, and vice versa. The MAC has 2 subcommittees, Access and Infrastructure, which deals with things like vehicles, bus and light rail, facilities such as buildings, light rail stations, bus stops, etc. And then the second committee is the Training, Communications, and Policy subcommittee. And that committee deals with things like driver's training, RT GO issues, website accessibility and other issues. The MAC also has a subcommittee. The subcommittee is composed of the MAC chair and vice chair, as well as the chair of the two committees. The executive committee has two functions. We work on the agendas for each of the MAC meetings, and we also work on the annual work plan, which I will talk about in a few moments. All MAC meetings and the meetings of the subcommittees are open to the public. The MAC meets monthly on the third Thursday from 2:30 to 4:30. The subcommittees meet at least once a year, although this year they've already met once and they're going to meet even more. I would urge you to get on the mailing list, contact Accessible Services, or go on the website, the SacRT website, find out when we meet. The MAC meetings take place at the RT auditorium, although they are also on Zoom. The subcommittee meetings are wholly virtual, so they are also on Zoom. The MAC is required to submit, as I said a moment ago, an annual work plan to the RT board. That plan basically is comprised of all the topics that the MAC is going to take up during the year, although we also take up items that are brought to us by staff. Let me give you just a list of a few of the items that are on this year's work plan. Review of customer complaint procedures, review and advice on RT GO issues, and those issues can include things such as on-time performance, including USERV, operator training, and GO eligibility processes. And some of the other issues that we take up are payment procedures, apps, accessibility of websites and documents, and implementation of low-floor vehicle conversion. So you see, the work plan really runs the gamut of things that impact seniors and people with disabilities. We are staffed primarily by our accessible services staff, Priscilla Vargas, the ADA coordinator, and Austin Greiner. And we also hear from staff members throughout RT that basically present on the issues within their jurisdiction. In conclusion, we encourage those interested in either being on the MAC or to come to our meetings to do so. We value your input. We are often driven by the input that we receive from you, and we want to have you there. In terms of finding out about application to the MAC, you can either look on the SacRT website, or you can contact Priscilla Vargas at Accessible Services. So thank you very much, and I'll turn it back to Priscilla.
Thank you, Jeff. Really appreciate that. I'd like to now turn it over to Richard Mitchell to give us a GO Paratransit Services update.
Thank you, Priscilla, and good morning to everybody. My name is Richard Mitchell. I'm the Director of Community and Contracted Bus Services. And over the past open houses, we've been listening to what our customers have been giving us as feedback and trying to incorporate an item or several items from what we've heard and discuss that of what we've done about it since our last open house. So next slide, please. So this is what we heard from our last open house and also through customer service complaints over the months since then, is about door-to-door service. So just reviewing what door-to-door service is per our rider's guide and our policy is to vehicle operators will treat you with courtesy and dignity as they escort you to and from the main door. The main door is considered the lobby of a major medical facility, apartment complex, etc. of your pickup location and help you get on and off the vehicle. They can stow small personal belongings, push a manual wheelchair, provide direction, and act as a sighted guide. But if you need other types of help, like checking you out of a care facilities, filling prescription, managing several bags or packages, etc., please bring along a personal care attendant. So with that being our policy, what we've worked on since our last open house and over this past several months is creating a campaign, working with our drivers, ensuring that we're doing door-to-door service, and then also trying to follow what this policy is. And so we still have more room to work on, but we've met with each driver individually and trained them and retrained them on this. We are monitoring this on an ongoing basis. And also we've been receiving some complaints coming in just because the drivers are following the policy. So this is just a reminder of what we are to do and what we're not to do. So we're not to lose sight of the vehicle by going up into second floor of apartment complex or signing people out of programs, carrying a bunch of their bags onto the vehicle for them, but we are to go to the door. And in some cases, we've even received complaints where we are at the door, but we see the passenger and then they complain we didn't ring the doorbell, but we're talking to them. So it is getting to the door, making contact with you, and then escorting you based upon what you are requiring, because some passengers do not need any escorting, and so we just walk along with you. But the drivers are to get out of the vehicle and are to go to the door or the main lobby of a facility that you may be at. Next slide. The other thing that I wanted to discuss is that SacRT as a whole this year has been going through an overall rebranding. And with that, the SacRT GO branding has been redone. And so this is an example on the screen of our new logo. And so it basically has that it's SacRT and GO in one line, and then Paratransit Services below that. And then the SAC is in a dark navy, the RT is in a gold, and the GO is in a lighter blue. And then Paratransit below that, and it's kind of stacked, is all in navy. And so you'll start seeing this on our vehicles as they are, new buses are being put in service, and then and throughout our system. Next slide. And with that, the decal that we have for the user vehicles has also been updated. So there is a SacRT up top, a big GO in a gold and blue color, and then Paratransit Service below that. And I was able to verify that the drivers have started to receive these new decals, and we'll be putting them on the vehicles. So you'll start being able to see a different branding for the user vehicles, but it's in line with our new logo. Next slide, please. And then some additional exciting news is the fact that we're receiving new paratransit vehicles. And so currently we received 29 of our 30, with the other one to be arriving soon. And we're expecting to have these in service or starting to be put into service by the end of April. And with that, these vehicles also, another item of where we've listened about how rough the ride is, these vehicles have an air ride system. So it should make the ride for the passengers a little more comfortable. So we will have, throughout this year, we'll have all 30 of them in service. And so we're really excited about that. So thank you very much.
Thank you, Richard. All right, we are now at the SacRT overview of the customer satisfaction process, and I'm going to turn it over to Jamie Poole-Canavari.
Good morning. My name is Jamie Pulcanaveri, and I'm the Director of Customer Satisfaction. Along with me is our Senior Customer Advocate, Holly Martinez. We are both glad to be here today. Today's presentation will be an overview of the customer satisfaction process. What we have in front of us is a PowerPoint slide with the call center and sales center basic information, and I will shortly go over the process with you. We hope that the information shared with you today will be helpful, and to remind you that we do take our customers' feedback and concerns seriously, and we do want to hear from you, our customers. With that, let's jump right in. The first slide here will explain and break down the 2 units within the customer satisfaction department. Our call center assists customers via phone with general customer service questions related to routes, schedules, and Connect Card. They also provide trip planning for fixed route and Smart Ride. Our sales center is where you can purchase your fare in person and/or pick up schedules or RT printed materials. The customer advocacy team assists with feedback for the district, such as complaints, comments, suggestions, and compliments. They also provide second-tier assistance with Connect Card and Zip Pass support. In addition, they provide assistance in person, email, or by phone. Next, let's review the steps of the feedback process. There are 6 steps in the process. Here on the screen, you will have the 6 steps, and I will go over each step with the group and the folks that are here and online with us. Step 1. In this step, our customer advocate receives the feedback. They listen to the customer's concerns and they attempt to address. At this time, a feedback number is assigned and provided to the customer. The feedback number acts as a reference number for the customer. This number follows the feedback along with the process and is referenced in follow-up and/or closing letters. Our staff works to address the matter in the first call or contact, as first call resolution is always our goal. In step 2, this is the acknowledgement stage. An acknowledgement of the feedback is provided to the customer, and we will explain the feedback process to you. If the feedback is received via an email, we will also send an email. In step 3, investigation begins. And I wanted to point out that sometimes in investigation, it will start immediately. As noted on the slide here, we work directly with our partners such as UServe to address feedback. Complaints such as high priority, as in direct threats, unsafe operation of a vehicle, and ADA-related complaints are shared with managers, directors, and VPs when appropriate. Step 4 is resolution. When it comes to resolution, we work swiftly to offer first contact resolution. And we do a lot here at SacRT when it comes to addressing feedback. When we receive a report of a less than favorable experience, we take swift action. Some examples of this are ensuring that employees receive the appropriate coaching, which can include refresher training, appropriate and corrective action when appropriate. I also wanted to share with you some of the examples of the modules of our operator training program that our staff received during initial and refresher training sessions. Professionalism and customer service, conflict and aggression management, and ADA compliance and sensitivity. Step 5, this is where we follow up with our customer and we close the feedback. Step 6, when the feedback is received, it is monitored and evaluated. Once it's closed, we keep that information into our database and we use it for tracking and decision-making. And we consider the customer feedback during our decision-making processes for future planning and needs. This brings me to the last part of the presentation. What we have on the slide here is the contact information, the hours of operation, and the address for our department. And the call center phone number is 916-321-2877. To speak with a customer service representative, you can hit option 3, then option 0. You'll be then placed into the queue. Customer advocacy option is option 3, then option 6. That will bring you directly to a customer advocate. Our email address for feedback, if you'd like to send us feedback at any time, is customeradvocacy@sacrt.com. You can also get more information about SacRT at sacrt.com/contact us. This information will be shared there as well. Mailing address, if you wanted to send feedback by mail, you can. P.O. Box 2110, Sacramento, California, 95812. Our physical address, 1225 R Street. It's adjacent to the 13th Street Light Rail Station. And our hours of operation, weekdays, 8 a.m. to 5 p.m. We do follow the holiday schedule, so you'd want to check SacRT.com to check our hours. They may vary on holidays. And weekends, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. So 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. for weekends, that's going to be customer advocacy. So we do have advocates available on the weekend, 10 a.m. to 2 p.m. by phone. And those are the ways that you can contact any of our units within customer satisfaction. And at this time, I am open for questions. Should we? Oh, I apologize. Withdraw that. I'm
Thank you,
not
Jamie.
quite open for questions, but thank you.
Thank you. Yes, we have a dedicated time slot for the Q&A session. Thank you, Jamie. We will now turn it over to Jess Mooney. She will be presenting our supplemental services overview of the customer satisfaction process. Thank you, Jess.
Great. Thank you so much, Priscilla. Good morning, everyone. My name again is Jess Mooney. I am the Senior Director of Client Services here at USERV and very proud to be working in your community with the SacRT team. Excuse me. So as you heard from SacRT regarding the customer satisfaction process, we work very closely with SacRT as part of their investigation process. Our team receives the feedback and immediately begins our own internal investigation in order to be able to provide the SacRT team with prompt and complete information so that they can remain consistent and successful with their very important 6-step process, as you just heard. At this time, I would like to share some information about USERV and our processes that kind of get us to that point to be able to provide SacRT with the information that they need. I will be going through a brief presentation. As I do, I'll be describing each slide prior to discussing the topic. So currently I'm showing the title slide for my presentation with both the USERV and the new SacRT GO logo, as Richard explained earlier. It has today's meeting date on it with an image of a USERV rider who is facing the camera smiling and is wearing glasses. Slide, please. Okay. On this slide, on the right side of the slide, there's an image of a USERV driver parked in their vehicle with their mobile device in their hand, and they appear to be using their mobile device. On the left side of the screen, the slide is the agenda, which I'll talk through now. I'd like to share a little bit with you today about our driver onboarding and compliance processes, our vehicle compliance, rider and driver safety, and then, of course, the complaint process, all of which are a part of our overall rider satisfaction process. Slide, please. On this side, on the right side of the slide, there's an image of a USERV driver providing assistance to a USERV rider as they walk up to enter the vehicle. On the left side of the slide, there are bullet points describing USERV's service, which I'll get right into now. So just sharing a little bit for those of you who may not be familiar yet, USERV was launched in 2017, and we are built specifically to provide support to the paratransit community and senior community. As you may know, we began our partnership with SacRT GO several years ago now. And since then, we have grown, and I'm excited to share that we are successfully completing over 250 trips a day in the greater Sacramento area in your community. During the time that we've been partnering with SacRT GO, Richard and his team, we've been partnering with them and Richard and his team on all of our processes and our procedures. And like they shared, we take the feedback, both complaints and general feedback and compliments very seriously. We review the feedback we get from you and build our processes and procedures that help us improve for better service. So when you share your feedback, good and bad, we listen very intently, we hear you, and we work hard to make adjustments to improve services for all of our riders. So when you share concerns that come up, such as door-to-door service experience, maybe signage on vehicles, or issues maybe with payment methods like Zip Pass as an example, we hear and respond to all of these concerns and use them as opportunities to improve our service. With that in mind, I'd like to share a little bit about our driver compliance program with you, how we get them set up to drive in your community, and then the ongoing work we do with updates, changes, and adjustments that are made throughout the life of the program, again, as we get feedback from SacRT on our service and performance. Slide, please. Thank you. Excuse me. On the top left of this slide, there's an image of a driver who is standing next to their vehicle and is looking at their mobile device, and it has a checklist on it, it looks like. So there are 4 boxes in the center of the slide highlighting 4 key categories of driver compliance and tracking, all of which are tracked in our software system. So I'll describe some of that now. Userv uses a custom designed compliance platform to ensure that every single driver who onboards with Userv meets all federal, so FTA and ADA, state and local requirements to provide transportation for SacRT. When we began our partnership with SacRT, and long before we put any drivers on the road, we worked with the state of California and SacRT to build our platform specifically for your community in your state. This means that the drivers in your community must complete, among many things, criminal background checks, MVR checks. They must participate in our FTA drug and alcohol compliance program, among others. And everything is tracked and monitored in our platform. This ensures that every driver on the road is compliant with all of these base requirements at all times. Of equal import, obviously, is our drivers must complete a rigorous training program that includes understanding the ADA, sensitivity, some HIPAA compliance, things like door-to-door service, and rider fare collection training, among a few others. When this is complete, and before drivers are allowed to get on the road, they sign a terms of service agreement with us and a partnership agreement with us, which confirms that they understand the service they are expected to provide and agree to do so and follow all of our guidelines. With that, I'd like to share a little more on the quality of service and how we take the feedback that we receive from SacRT that you provide and the community provides, and how we work closely with them on processes and procedures to improve service. Slide, please. Thank you. So the slide that I have up now, the title on this slide reads, Userv's complaint process is thorough and extensive. And there are 3 sections of this slide titled Safety, Signage, and Zip Pass. You've heard me say a few times now that we work closely with SacRT on all rider feedback and updating processes when needed. But what does that mean? So as you know, all the feedback from your community is provided directly to SacRT, and their team is very prompt and efficient in communicating all feedback to Userv. We view this feedback as an opportunity to examine our service, to address individual issues, and to take broader action when trends are identified. So some trends that you are familiar with likely include signage on the vehicles, identifying them both as Userv and SacRT GO service vehicles. Also things like processing rider fare for those riders who prefer to use the Zip Pass and others. And as a result, your feedback and our review process with SacRT, as a result of that, we've continued to update our training and driver communication specifically regarding the Zip Pass collection, and are currently tracking trends to see if any additional updates are required, and how successful we've been in the updates we've made recently. As you are all aware, we have both changed the vehicle identification recently from a magnet to a window cling, helping to improve compliance with this very important part of the service. And vehicle signage in particular has seen a number of updates. First, we moved to window clings and distributed brand new identification to all of our drivers. And Richard, I'm happy to hear that you've been able to confirm that we're starting to see that out on the road. When we continued to receive feedback that there were still drivers who were not compliant with signage previously, we reviewed our vehicle pre-service processes and highlighted the signage as part of the requirements needed to drive for that day. So that's a vehicle checklist that our drivers have to complete before they leave for the day to go on their first trip. Additionally, we took a hard look at our disciplinary policy to make sure it aligned with expectations and adjusted our progressive policy to do so and help ensure compliance with the signage. Next slide, please. The title for this slide reads, Userv's technology enables ongoing road supervision and rapid incident response. There are 3 sections to the left of the slide and one larger section on the right, all highlighting safety at USERV that I'll discuss with you now. Safety is very important at USERV, and as some of you know, we have a team of operations agents who provide oversight on every single trip. Our road supervision is always on. In addition to the consistent vehicle oversight, our platform alerts our team members if any trip is being executed outside of expected parameters. And all of this allows our team to take action in real time. So is a trip taking longer than it should? Is a trip not in the right location? Is a driver on their way to pick up a rider and going to do so in a timely manner? So the proactive real-time oversight allows our team to initiate immediate trip suspension if needed, or to re-release trips that may encounter an incident of some kind along the way, like maybe there's a flat tire that occurs. So we can do that for immediate recovery. And as always, our team has real-time contact with both our drivers and also SacRT during any situation that is outside of parameters. So working very closely with Richard and Kathy in particular and their team, who are amazing to work with. Our team also provides ongoing coaching and remediation to our drivers, which is also why the specifics you provide in your feedback are so important to us. Our operations supervisors respond to and act on all complaints promptly, acknowledging concern and immediately following up with the driver associated with the concern. Drivers are always coached on policy if a concern is received and founded, and any concern that's deemed egregious, the driver will be immediately suspended from the platform. Finally, and last but certainly not least on this slide, we have telematics embedded in our driver app. So what does that mean? Telematics allow us visibility to driving skills at all times. The technology tracks things like hard turning, braking, speeding, acceleration, and it also tracks whether a driver is using that cell phone during the course of the trip at any point in time. So this way our team can track any driver that's not obeying traffic laws or any driver that may be on their cell phone when transporting a driver. And these actions are unacceptable. An appropriate progressive discipline up to and including permanent suspension from the platform will absolutely apply. Next slide, please. Finally, Richard already shared this with you too, but on my last slide, there's an image of the newest vehicle decals with the new SacRT GO logo on it. So this is what you can expect to see in the windows of the vehicles where your trip has been assigned to USERV, and the logo, like Richard described, says SacRT on the top, and then GO in very big letters, a gold G and a blue O, and Paratransit Services underneath. And with that, when it comes to question time, I am happy to take questions, and I'll defer to SacRT on how they'd like to proceed. Thank you so much for your time today.
Great. Thank you so much, Jess. That was great. Great presentation. And now I'm going to turn it over to our moderator, Jessica Gonzalez.
Okay. Thank you so much. Again, Jessica Gonzalez, Director of Marketing, Communication, and Public Information at SacRT. So now it is our question and answer session. So we have 2 different options for you. So if you're joining us online, you can use the raise hand option feature so that we can unmute you to ask your question. If you are unable to use the online feature, you can call in. So that phone number is 916-321-2877. That would be option 2, then option 2 again. I'm going to repeat that number again. That's 916-321-2877, option 2, then option 2 again. You can submit your question with a SacRT GO representative who will then share their question with us. So again, if you can't use the online feature, you can call in. There may be a short wait, so please wait on the line and they will take that question for you. So we're going to take a look now to see if we have anyone's hands raised. I'm going to check over here with Austin to see if we have anyone. Okay, let's see. Andy. So Austin will unmute you. And Andy, you should be able to ask your question.
Yeah, I was wondering, sometimes I've had my rides be like up to half an hour after I've gotten the text saying when they're supposed to show up. And so I'll call in, excuse me, the number and ask for either the customer service person or dispatch and let me know when the ride's supposed to show up. So, where are they? They'll tell me, oh, they're 10 minutes away or whatever. Should be there in a while. But I can do that before 5 o'clock. What do I do after 5 o'clock to find out when my ride's going to show up if it's running late?
Okay, I'm going to turn this question over to Kathy to answer.
Hi, Andy. What you would do is you would still call the same number, 916-321-2877, option 2, and then option 3. That'll put you right through into dispatch, and they are open from 3:30 in the morning until around midnight each day.
Okay, because like I had a Super Bowl Sunday, it was 9 o'clock at night, freezing cold. I was waiting outside and I didn't know who to call, so I was freezing to death.
Oh,
So
I
it's
do apologize for that. And always remember, you stay inside the buildings when it's raining or it's extra cold, because we will call you. Dispatch will call you if the driver can't locate you.
Okay, and how long should I wait before I feel it's been too long after that time they've texted me?
Once the ready time has expired, I would suggest give us a call at that point in time, but you can actually call anytime. And then if they give you an ETA, if you haven't received your ride, let's say they said in 10 minutes and it's already been 20, I would definitely give them a call back to find out what's the reason for the delay.
Okay, I've been waiting at least 20, but I didn't know if that was long enough or not. But you're saying that's no problem calling at 20 minutes.
Exactly.
Okay, because I've had like one day last Tuesday, I was told be ready 8:50. Then I got a text saying they would be there 9:15. Then the driver showed up at 9:55, and I told them I wanted to be at my destination at 10. So of course I got to my destination at almost 10:30, half hour late, because I said he showed up at 9:55, where originally I was told 8:50 or 9:15. So he was really late that day. And so, yet the next day he was right on time. So it goes back and forth, back and forth.
Yeah, it all depends on what's transpiring. If there's, traffic issues getting to you, that type of thing.
Yeah, so that was just frustrating because I sometimes get feeling like they're not fully aware that this is my job. So it's just like I'm like a regular person. I need to get there on time. I don't want to be late for my job.
Exactly. Do you go every day, Andy?
Every Tuesday and Thursday.
Have you requested a subscription trip?
No, I didn't know you could do that.
Okay. I would suggest calling and asking to speak to one of the reservationists, and they could set you up with a subscription trip.
Okay, great. Then I don't need to call in
Then
every
you
day
wouldn't have to call
beforehand.
in and make sure you give the or like what time you need to be at work.
Right. It's always the same time. Every Tuesday, Thursday at 10 o'clock.
Okay.
So okay, great. I'll do that. That'll make it much easier for me. Well, thank you very, very much. And also, I was curious, what's the difference between the vans and the cars? I thought they use cars sometimes.
Richard's going to take that.
Yeah, thank you, Andy. This is Richard Mitchell, the Director of Community Contracted Bus Services. And so the difference when the vans show up, that is actual SacRT personnel and vehicles that are owned by SacRT. When the cars or sedans show up, that is the user supplemental service providing that trip. And there's like you could have a van, you could have user. There's no guarantee on either one. It just depends on how the system is running that day and where we can place you. And so you could have either one. Like you could have the van as taking you to work, and then a sedan picking you up.
Okay. Yeah, I've never seen a sedan ever. So that's why I've heard about it, but I've never actually seen one. So that's why I was just curious what it was all about. Okay, I think that answers about every question I have. And then yeah, that solves everything. But thank you very much.
All right. Thank you, Andy. So we have our next question with their hand raised.
I mean,
It looks like BJ Nash. So we're going to unmute you. BJ Nash, you can now ask your question.
Hello. I do some on-call work. So I'm sorry.
Go ahead. It sounded like someone else got unmuted as well. Go ahead, continue.
So I can't really use the subscription service because I don't really know what days and times I'll be working. But I've been left stranded for almost 4 hours after work. I'm calling into dispatch and I'm being told, we just don't have anyone right now. Call back in 10 minutes, call back in 30 minutes. If I'm released from work, let's say I have a pickup, I'm trying to schedule for 5 p.m. and I'm not able to get that time because it's already booked. So my pickup is booked for 6 and I actually finish work at 4. And I call in and I'm told by a dispatcher that nothing can be done. I just have to wait. They're not allowed to call the drivers. They're not allowed to radio the buses to make any changes. And then the time comes and goes and I'm still left waiting. I've called and complained and no one ever offered any other option. I didn't even know that there was such a thing as U-Serve until this morning.
Okay, I'm going to have Kathy kind of explain the difference real quick for everyone, because I think this could be a common question between the SacRT GO Paratransit shuttles that are operated by SacRT and our U-Serve supplemental service, meaning when we get very, very busy, that's a supplemental service option for people who are not in mobility devices, because again, these are sedans. So I will have Kathy address your question.
Thank you.
Hi, BJ. Thank you for asking your question. So just so you understand, so our schedules are scheduled the day before. This is why we have you make reservations 1 to 2 days in advance. And so in order to change, let's say you're ready early, it's not just a matter of putting you on a bus. We have to adjust everyone else that would be on that bus schedule and move them to other buses. So that's one of the reasons, it's very hard for us to do. If we have the availability, we definitely will do it. But when we have many trips, a lot of times we're just not able to do that because it's a domino effect. If we put you on that bus, then we're going to have to move. It could be a number of people that we need to move. Does that help explain things better?
I understand that. Let me give you another situation. On February 1st is just one day that sticks out in my mind. I had a pickup scheduled for 5:30. I was picked up at 8:15. And I called 4 times. I got the same person the first 3 calls, and he told me, there's nothing I can do. I said, well, can you call the driver and find out how much longer it'll be? He tells me to call back in 30 minutes. He's not allowed to radio the bus. He has no information for me. The 4th phone call, I got someone different. And they scheduled a pickup that actually got to me in 30 or 40 minutes. My question is, when I'm calling in and my ride is scheduled for 5 p.m. and it's 5:30, I haven't been picked up, and I'm calling into dispatch and they're telling me they don't know when the driver's going to be there. What is my recourse for that? Because I was left outside in a horrific storm. The building, the janitors locked the building. I'd been waiting for 3 hours. So at a point, there's no place to sit and be out of the elements and be safe while I'm waiting for the ride. And it is, you know, at 3 hours, that's an unreasonable amount of time for anyone to have to wait.
This is Richard, the Director of Community Contracted Bus Services. I really apologize for what you've experienced. And just to clarify, this is all on SacRT Go, or is some of it with SmartRide?
It's SacRT GO.
Okay. And
it's paratransit service, and it's typically when, and I understand that 5 p.m. is a very busy time, but to have a 5 or even a 6 o'clock pickup time and no one be able to give you any information, and then when you finally get picked up, it's 8 p.m. As a senior citizen and a woman outside after dark, it's just not safe.
I apologize for your experience, and we would definitely like to look into these situations for you. And if we can get back to you on it, we definitely will give you a call and discuss all these with you. Can I just verify your name?
Yes, my name is Betty Nash, and I called in, I filed complaints. I've heard nothing.
We will definitely get back to you, Betty. And so I will, be involved in this in every step. And when we talk to you, I'll be on the call with you. Okay.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
All right, thank you. Next, we have a hand up from Rick Hodgkins. Rick, we're going to unmute you. You can ask your question, Rick.
Okay. I actually have a few questions. I actually had a similar situation to Betty back in December. I was meeting somebody at a Jim Boy's Tacos out in North Highlands, and I had a bus both ways. I wanted to be at the Jim Boy's Tacos at a certain time. This was back in December. I wanted to be there at a certain time, and the person I was going to meet there, he almost had to leave because I was so late. And then I had to wait about 4 or 5 hours for a ride to go home because of a similar incident. And some of us have to wait out in the cold because even though we would like to wait inside, we're told to wait outside. To follow up from Andy's concern. Also, I had 2 similar incidents from February and also one from 2 days ago. On February 13th, I had an incident where I was going to Step for a Valentine's Day party, and I was in both a user vehicle and a bus showed up to pick me up to go to Step. And that's never happened before. And then 2 days ago, I needed to go to UC Davis Medical Center to the Department of Neurological Surgery. And the driver I had, user driver, first off, she thought my apartment, which is apartment 179, was right next to 178. And it's not. It's, the opposite side of the building of 178. Furthermore, she did not have the nerve to ask ask a parking attendant where to park her vehicle so she could help me up to the 3rd floor to the Department of Neurological Surgery. This was at 3160 Folsom Boulevard, Suite 3900 on the 3rd floor. And my only question is, Jasmine, are you located in Richmond, if you don't mind me asking, are you located in Richmond, California, or Richmond, Virginia, because I hear that USERV is out of Richmond. Thank you.
Thank you, Rick. I will let Jess jump in after I'm done responding, but I mean, there's quite a few items here, and we definitely can contact you back and follow through on these. I mean, we definitely know that we're working on our on-time performance, and some days they're good, some days they're definitely a challenge. When it comes to the user system and you having them, Kathy can correct me if I'm wrong, but going up to the third floor, we're only going door to door is only to the lobby of a complex. And if there's not a lobby, then, you know, going all the way to the third floor, that's really out of sight, and that's beyond the door to door service. And then
I don't see, that's why.
what's that, Rick?
I'm blind, so I don't know. I wouldn't be able to find the elevator at the medical center. That's why I was concerned. Well, in any case, the USERV driver didn't know where to park her car.
Yeah, and that's like, if you need further assistance like that, definitely, you know, you are able to bring on along a PCA, a personal care attendant, to help you with that, and there's no charge for that individual, and that even applies when you're using the USERV system. So whether or not you're on a go or a user pickup, the care attendant is not charged. And also, if they're having problems locating and they're a user driver, they are all instructed to reach back to their dispatch for any type of guidance, and their dispatch has easy access to our dispatch. And sometimes that regularly will happen for them to ask questions to get clarifications, like if they're unable to locate the passenger or unable to, you know, find where your address is. So, Jess, if you would like to respond to the other part of where you're located.
Sure. Yep. Absolutely. Thanks, Richard. And thank you, Rick, for the feedback and for the specific information, because I can also take a look at your trip from 2 days ago and be prepared to provide Sacramento SacRT with any information they may need and follow up from us.
By the way, the cars are not all sedans. Some are Hondas. Some are SUVs. Some are Chevy Silverados. Some are so they're not all sedans.
Yes, that's correct. Yes. Yes, Rick, they are some different types of vehicles but primarily in our case for riders who are ambulatory or are able to transfer. But to answer your specific question, Rick, our headquarters is in Richmond, Virginia, and we operate in about 20 states right now, of which California is one. So we're really excited to be in a number of places in California, and especially excited to be providing service in partnership with SacRT.
Where are you at yourself?
Me physically right now? I am in Richmond, Virginia right now, but I will be in Sacramento tomorrow.
Thank you, Jess. And Rick, to follow up on one of your other questions about both USERV vehicles showing up and SacRT, that is definitely an issue that we have been addressing through it's more of a software glitch, and we're dealing with our software company Ecolane and also USERV through their software, and it's a communication issue where we do not believe that user has that trip, but user does have the trip. And so it's just trying to get on the software talking correctly, and the software developers and IT personnel from both companies are diligently working on it. And we have weekly conversations about this, and even had one on Wednesday with both teams. So I apologize for that occurring, but it's definitely something we are aware of and do not want to have happening.
All right, thank you very much. We have our next question here. The name is Treviso. Treviso, if I'm saying that right, we are going to unmute you and you are able to now ask your question.
Okay, can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, I live in Folsom and have been living here for a couple of years, and I find that the drivers that I have are very good. They are professional with personality, and it's greatly appreciated. What the other thing I wanted to talk about was more often than not, with the riding experience I've been having is when you see the back of where the driver sits, there's that's where they place all the bulletins. And sometimes they're hard to read and put up hastily with painter's tape. And sometimes more often than not, they're outdated. I was wondering if it wouldn't be better to have some kind of digital display, and it would be able to be updated at a moment's notice from the front office, and it would make people aware of situations that might be happening. For example, yesterday there was an incident that happened at the light rail station near 65th Street, where a police action had to be taken, and it would make people aware in case they were going to that area to be able to divert and change their trip. Having said that, and then one more thing is the app, the SacRT app, it hasn't been working properly for the past several weeks. And that's it. That's all I have.
Thank you so much for that. I'm going to address first. I'm happy to hear you like your drivers in Folsom. That's great news. Second, I do want to talk about the materials that we do have on vehicles. So that's actually something I actually went with my marketing team just yesterday. Was it yesterday? And we did an audit of some of the materials. So that's something we are working with our best maintenance department on. We can look into that digital option. I think there is definitely cost associated with a digital option. It's something we did pilot in one of our larger buses, but there's a pretty large cost associated to that. It's something I think we can look at in the future. It's something we would want to do. As for the current materials, we are going to trying to work on making sure those are updated as quickly as possible and old materials being taken off. I will turn it over to Matt, who's with our bus maintenance area, to kind of address that a little bit further.
Yeah, thanks, Jessica. Yeah, we're a little shorthanded on staffing right now to take care of all of the signs, but we do every night try and make sure that we catch as many as we can and update those bulletins and messages in there. So.
One more thing we did recently add to all of our materials was actually a remove date on all of our materials. So that will help staff know, because oftentimes Matt's team doesn't really know that a campaign's old or something we're doing is old. So over the last, I think we just started it about a month or two ago, we started a remove date for all of our posters, all of our A-frames at our stations, to really help our other teams who don't work in marketing know when something is old and should be removed. Also, another reminder is that our free alert SacRT app is a great resource. We really hope that people download this and use it, because it gives those immediate notifications if there's any service disruptions. We did do that with the incident that happened at University 65th Street yesterday. So that's a 24/7 security operations center that's monitoring and can really get those messages out in real time. I do want to let Richard update on the SacRT Go app, I think was referenced.
That's correct. Thank you, Jessica. And yes, we are aware of an issue on the Android version of the app for our paratransit program. The software company that we use for that is Ecolane, and they've been working on that diligently, trying to figure out what the problem was. They've identified it. They've been doing isolated testing on it, and they've, as of Wednesday, told us within the next week, hopefully that they will be sending out the patch, which is more of a back end data type of deal, and that should be working. And we will definitely have an update from them on Tuesday to find out where they're at on this. And we've been pushing them very hard because we're aware how vital that app is for a lot of our passengers.
Yeah, I really like it, and it helps relieve the tension knowing where your ride is, and if you need to use a restroom before your ride gets there, it gives you a chance to do that. I had one more question. I noticed that in Folsom that they are doing a lot of building residences, apartments, and it seems like there's going to be a greater need for SacRT Go. Is Regional Transit planning on that? Because I know that the availability of rides right now is somewhat limited, and making sure that that is looked into would be great.
Yeah, thank you for that question. This is Richard Mitchell, Director of Community Contracted Bus Services again. And we are aware of the fact that our demand for our service overall, not just in Folsom, but throughout the entire county, is definitely growing. And we've been addressing that, hiring more drivers and, trying to balance that situation out of demand versus what our resources are. So we are aware of it and we are addressing it.
One other thing I want to mention outside of SacRT GO Paratransit Services for Folsom is we are expanding Folsom transit services starting this summer. We're not only expanding one of our Folsom stage line routes into weekend service, but we're also expanding our light rail service to be 15-minute frequency. So we're hoping for those riders who are also able to use bus and light rail, that's another opportunity for expanded service in the Folsom area. Okay, I have another question with a hand raised. The name says iPhone guest. So I don't have your name, but we're going to unmute you. So hopefully you can see that you're unmuted and ask your question.
Can you hear me?
Yes, we can.
Okay, hi, my name is Roxana. I'm actually working on teleworking, so I'm on my phone. So the reason why I'm calling is I thank you for taking my call. Is that I'm over 70 and I have to go to the office. I'm teleworking at home, but I go to the office on usually one day a week. And I'm having, in the beginning, I was having really good success with the U-Serve. And because they usually bring U-Serve because I'm not in a wheelchair or walker or anything like that. But what the problem seems to be is the pickup and drop off points. I don't make those rules, because I live in an apartment complex on Watt Avenue. And it's very busy. If you ever been down Watt Avenue in Arden Arcade, it's like a freeway. So usually they have the drivers pick up and drop off on Pope Avenue on the side of the apartment building. And then I go to the federal building. It's a big federal building. It's in Arden, on Cottage Way.
Real quick.
Yes.
It's sounding to us like you may be referring to Smart Ride, our on-demand microtransit service.
No, I get U-Serve. Yeah, they're U-Serve
It should be a
drivers.
door-to-door service. Is she being dropped off in a different location? I'm asking Jamie right now. She's going to fill me in.
Hi there. I believe this may be perhaps maybe where the drivers turn into the apartment complex or where she lives. Maybe we need to look at the address. It might be pointing them to a different.
So we have done that with certain other locations, UC Davis Health, things like that. So could you clarify the address for us a little bit? And maybe, and we're going to, Kathy and Richard are here to take a look at if we can help clarify that actual location. So I'll let you continue your question. I apologize.
That's okay. It's 3220 Watt Avenue, and the federal building is 2800 Cottage. And so I've had problems with both, and I'm usually, I have a cane, so I usually walk out, when I know the time, I walk out with my cane and I'm waiting there. And they call and they go, well, where are you? Well, I get the text message saying they're here, and I go, well, where are you? And and a lot of times they're parked in the parking garage, the building of my apartment building. Now at the federal building, that's a really big issue because, because of COVID, it's easier for me because we're on a lockdown at the federal building. In the front, they don't, have front access of the federal government building, the lobby. So that's why but it's easy for me because I don't know if you know, but there used to be a bus stop right there on 2800 Cottage Way at the federal building. And so it's easy for me to go out there in the front, after work, because usually I'm the only one out there because and so I go out there, they said that they've arrived, and so then pretty soon they call me and I go, well, I'm here, out in front, and they go, well, I am too. And I go, well, you can't be because I don't see your car and stuff like that. And so then they go, I said, are you out on Cottage Way on the front like the instructions were? And they go, yeah, I'm out here. I'm out here in front. Turns out they're out in the back parking lot. Some of them tell me that they check Google, and Google tells them to go to the back parking lot. And and so I've actually had drivers leave me. I've actually had drivers get very irate to me. One driver actually told me to shut up when I tried to tell him that he actually said, well, he didn't tell me, these were his words when I was trying to explain to him that that's the back parking lot where you were at. This is the front. Do you see the address? 2800 Cottage Way, Federal Building. And I go, so he goes, now you talk, now you shut up and you let me talk. That's how they talk to me. And I'm like a woman over 70. And it's like, so it's, so I call these things in. I call them into the complaint number 557-4545. And I've asked, I've talked to Joe and I've asked him, I said, am I the only one having these problems lately? Because in the beginning, like 2 years ago when we were required to go to work 1 day a week, because of our telework agreement, that I never really had any problems. It was great. They were nice. In fact, I used to give them $2 tip, which I didn't know that you weren't supposed to do, because it's only like less than 2 miles from my apartment building to the federal building. And
Roxanne, I really appreciate your comments, and we were able to pull up you like in our program. And for going to the federal building, it does have notes there that says drop off in front of building, like the entrance. So we can adjust those notes, and those notes are carried over when we send the trip for user. That user has those notes additionally. And then with some of the other comments that you made, I will let Jess step in and address those for you. Okay.
Okay. Thank you.
Well, certainly, thank you, Richard, and Roxanne, thank you for the feedback. First, let me apologize for the experience that you had, that you just described with some of the drivers, it sounds like, in their response to you, because that's absolutely not what we expect from them. And I want to also thank you for calling that in, because when you let SacRT know, they let us know so we can address it, both specifically with the drivers who were on your trips, because if they're speaking that way to you, we want to make sure they're also not doing that again to anyone at all. And it also helps us keep track of trends of any kind of behavior like that may be occurring, so that we can know if we need to take broader measures with some of our progressive discipline policies. So certainly not at all what we expect. And I look forward to working with Richard and Kathy and the team on the trip notes and making sure that we're working together to get our drivers to the right location for both your pickup and your drop off.
Okay, thank you. Yeah, because when I call in and I go, every time I call and make a reservation, I specifically say, are the notes still there? And then when the drivers, on different drivers, I'll when they're upset because I'm not there, and they have to call, after they text that they were there, like at the federal building after work. And I said, well, when I called to make the reservation, I make sure that I check and see if the notes are still there. Now the drivers tell me, I don't know if it's factual. They tell me, oh no, we don't get those notes. They don't give us those notes. Regional transits don't give us those notes, the pickup and drop off. And I go, well, they tell me they do. They tell me that they relay those, I don't know, via a video, that when they tell me, because I didn't know, I don't know. And so actually I've been told both things, that the driver said they don't receive the notes and the pickup and drop off notes. And because it's a big federal building, even just the hallways in my federal building, to go down one hallway is over like 100 steps. And I have to go down 3 or 4 hallways just to get out of the building. So it's kind of difficult. Yeah, sorry.
Thank you for your comments. We're going to have our SacRT GO team follow up with you, and we'll ensure that those notes are correct for both if it's a SacRT GO paratransit driver or a user of driver. So thank you so much for sharing that with us.
Thank you very much.
Okay, I just want to give a little bit of a time check. So we have about 15 minutes left for the question and answers. I do have 3 people here. So next I'm going to go to Sue. So we are going to unmute you. So Sue, you can now ask your question. Sue, are you there?
Yes, I'm here. I had to find.
Okay, we can hear you. Go ahead.
Okay. 2 things. One, I'm also having difficulty with the drivers for user finding my residents. They tend to send them up the street around the curve, and often when they get the address, it doesn't have the street number in it. And this started back in July, maybe June, but definitely July until now. And if they call me, then I can direct them to where to go. And then I walk out to the street and meet them. But it seems to be an ongoing problem for that. And the other thing is, do you have an English proficiency requirement? Because I've had a few drivers that don't speak enough English to understand what we're doing.
I'm going to have Jess respond to that question. Jess?
Absolutely. Sue, thank you for your feedback. With regards to your pickup and drop off location, I'll work with SacRT to understand the address and the information that we have, and then any notes that may be associated with your trip, so that we can make sure our drivers have the most accurate information, and then user will follow up and make sure that our drivers are following that information, because we don't want you to have to be looking for them or have them be in a location where it's not where you expect them to be. On English proficiency, we do have English proficiency training as part of our onboarding, or not training, excuse me, but like an assessment of sorts as part of our onboarding process. And I appreciate your giving me feedback on this. I will work with SacRT as well to look at your specific trips, because I would love to understand where you've had experience with some drivers specifically who are not communicating with you in a way that we would both expect that to happen.
Okay, yeah, I can't remember who they were, but I know one of them is no longer working because she couldn't speak English.
Ah, okay. Well, that's probably due to your feedback or others, and we appreciate that. We do have it as part of our onboarding process. And actually we are working on revising some of that and making it more stringent, actually, due to feedback from the community here, and actually one other community in the US.
I mean, and I'm trying to give him directions to where to turn into my driveway, and I'm totally blind and I know where I'm at, but and he can't. You need to make a U-turn. Well, it's like, okay, because he went too far. Yeah, it's just interesting. And when I've talked to UServe, they tell me that the address problem is a GPS problem. And I said, I think you need to fix it. And they said, but it's GPS, and I don't see how they just don't put the street number in. They just get the last, the A in Casitas, and they don't get the whole street. I'm surprised they even find via Casitas.
Well, I will definitely work with Richard and Kathy and the team to understand what's going on there, Sue. I appreciate your sharing that, and also to understand circumstances where our team might be communicating with you and sharing information. We'll make sure we get that all buttoned up too.
Thanks.
And just to add to that, Sue, and this is Richard, the Director of Community Contracted Bus Services, is that we have been working with user on this exact subject and looking at the different types of apps that are being used for the GPS and looking at ways to minimize or even eliminate this address confusion. So it is something we're aware of, and it is something we're in discussions with user with, and they've been
ABC 10 News.
working very well with us on this.
Thanks.
All right, thank you. So I do have 3 more hands. So next we're going to get to Andy. Again, this is a second time asking questions. So we're going to unmute Andy. You are free to ask your question. Andy, are you there?
Sorry, I forgot to unmute myself. Very quick question. I see that you now run out to the airport, but the one, I've never done that because I've always been concerned, what if your flight arrives in 2 or 3 hours late? What would you do? Hello?
Thank you, Andy. This is Richard. It does create a problem in our software that if you have a scheduled pickup time and then you're going to miss that window, that then it becomes like a same day pickup. And then we have to look at where we have availability to be able to reschedule that pickup. But we definitely can reschedule that pickup. And then, you just need to call us, and then we can give you an approximate time that we'll be able to pick you up, so that then you can look at what your options are of whether to stay with SacRT GO, or if that, you can find another alternative solution. But we would like you to stay with us, and we definitely can work with you on that.
Okay, great. Because my only concern was the airport, because that's where that notoriously could happen.
That's correct, and we do have that occurring. Occasionally with some of the passengers that we take out to the airport, and when they're coming back for their pickup, and then usually it's later in the afternoon. It's in the evening. It's not always during our peak times, and so we're a lot more flexible and able to accommodate that rescheduling of that pickup. And because sometimes it's like 8, 9, 10 o'clock at night, and then those are very easy to reschedule and then get a vehicle over there within a reasonable time.
Okay, that's perfect. Oh, one last thing. 90% of my drivers and so on have been excellent and really nice, and I've been very impressed by them. So I want to let you guys know that.
Thank you.
Andy, I just wanted to add also, if you're aware that your flight's going to be late, you can call and we can renegotiate at the time. Like you can tell us what time the flight will be arriving at approximately, and then we can renegotiate that trip.
Thank you very, very much.
Okay, thank you. So next we do have BJ Nash to ask your question. We're unmuting you. BJ, you can ask your question.
Yes, I just going back to the app. You mentioned that it's a problem with Android. However, I have an iPhone and the app kind of works when it wants to. A lot of times I have to call in because I can't book on the app. So I just wanted to know, you said that there's a new update coming to fix it. Is that just for Android users?
Hi, BJ, it's Kathy from Go Again. I just want to say, we haven't had many people say they're having an issue if they have an iPhone, but I'm sure that when they do the upgrade in regards to like the Android, that'll also assist with the iPhone, any issues with the iPhone.
Wonderful. Thank you so much.
You're welcome. Thank you.
Okay, it looks like we have one more hand raised, and that's Rick Hodgkins. Rick, you can ask your question.
All right. So first off is if someone let's say if someone is on an airplane and are they able to call, hopefully that they're able to, if they can't call themselves using their cell phone, maybe the flight attendant can call on their behalf and let SacRT Go know that they're going to be late. And then also the as far as about 14 years ago, back in 2010, and Richard, I know this was before your time. By the way, my legal name is Richard as well. I was being picked up from a regional transit board of directors meeting about 14 years ago, back in 2010. This is when paratransit services were under Paratransit Inc. We were supposed to go and pick up somebody at the airport. And we ended up not picking that person up because they didn't tell us that they had made other arrangements. And we went out there for nothing. And we didn't know if their flight was late or what. And so flights have been known to come in later than usual at night, as well as late in the afternoon. And third, another lady over 70 years old said, a driver said, "Now you shut up and let me talk. We're not kids, we're adults. We don't like to be told, get in the car, get in the back seat, sit down and be quiet. We're not kids." That's another thing that these drivers, that whether they're SacRT Go or user drivers, need to know is we're not kids. We don't need to be treated as such. Thank you.
This is Richard. Thank you, Rick. So on the plane, calling you, I've flown a lot throughout my life, and if you're going to be late arriving at your destination, you know that prior to getting on board the plane, because the plane is late leaving. Usually it's not caused by being delayed in the air, it's being delayed at the terminal. So they should be able to call us or text us or somehow get in touch with us prior to boarding the plane or before the plane goes to taxi and they have to shut their phones off.
I didn't know that. Okay.
Yeah. And then the other thing, going to the airport and then nobody being there, we are having that issue ongoing currently, not just to the airport, but no shows or cancellations at the door, and addressing those on a one-on-one type of situation. And definitely going to be in the future following what our guidelines are and tracking those, and there will be repercussions as it's outlined in our rider guide. And then your last comment about the 70-year-old, there's been numerous conversations over various drivers for users throughout the time I've been here. I would have to say user is very responsive to this. And in some cases, there has been repercussions with those drivers by user because those are their, contractors or employees. But in any case where we've heightened it to a very concern level or a critical level, I immediately, when those complaints come in, send those to Jess and her team. Jess is super responsive to me. We have discussions with, back and forth. We
Also,
bring this up
SacRT
at
Go
our weekly
drivers as well.
meetings. And I would say I'm very pleased with the response. Unfortunately, it's a response after the occurrence occurred, but the way that they handle it and going forward, I think is very appropriate. So we do have mechanisms in place and policies in place that we work with user regularly to address those type of situations.
Okay, thank you. So at this time, I'm just doing one more check to see if we have any final questions. All right. It looks like those are our final questions. So let's advance the slide and I'll turn it over to Priscilla for our final update.
All right, thank you. Thank you very much, Jessica, and thanks everyone for those helpful and interesting questions that we can respond to, some of which will be at a offline essentially. What I wanted to share is that our next SacRT GO open house will be in fall 2024. We don't have an actual date as yet, but it will be in the fall 2024. We want to thank you all for joining us today with this virtual open house and appreciate your time. We have a in-person open house tomorrow at the Citrus Heights Community Center from 1 to 3. Maybe some of you will be there as well. Thank you so much. Have a good rest of the day. Jessica just reminded me that we are going to 11:30, so we'll leave up the meeting Zoom site until 11:30. Thank you.